Oh God.
I don't know what my only crime was being happy. That's all I did.
I hate you.
Holy shit, Danny. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Market Down Podcast. My name is Nick Cummings, and I'm by myself tonight. In a very cruel twist of irony, last week I was very sick and was unable to join the rest of the boys in going to AEW Grand Slam, which is why we were off. This week I'm fine, and the rest of the boys are sick. But we didn't want to screw you guys out of 2 weeks in a row, especially with the AEW pay-per-view Wrestle Dream coming up on Sunday. So I am going to tough this out by myself. I did this once before. I think it was an NXT pay-per-view review, maybe around WrestleMania weekend. I don't like doing these alone. So hopefully you guys are in the chat. You join in. Give me a little bit to bounce off of here. I don't know how James does this almost every week by himself in the Gym Pack Zone. But let us at least attempt this, and we'll see how it goes. Let's get started with the first match of the night, which saw Rey Fenix face off against Double J Jeff Jarrett for the AEW International Championship. We saw very early in this match that Jeff Jarrett was working over Rey Fenix's right leg. They harped on it a lot in commentary that Fenix wasn't 100% coming off of his championship win last week at Grand Slam over Jon Moxley. Now, since we didn't talk about it last week, I will briefly touch upon that. Obviously, that was not the plan. All of the reporting that came out afterwards said as much. And it sucks. I mean, Rey is a very safe worker. I think we can all pretty much agree on that. He didn't even make a mistake. I don't want to say he made a mistake. The guy, unfortunately, just, misplayed, dropping Moxley that way. I thought he did it twice. So both of those look pretty bad. Thank God Moxley only walked away with a concussion. Good audible by Mox. He knew he was out. Called the audible. Knox didn't hear it, unfortunately, which kind of made things a little screwy. But, we're now in this world where Rey Fenix is the, international champion. I don't mind that. I think we all have our hearts set run on the long Moxley run to try to mirror what they did with Orange Cassidy, but obviously other circumstances took hold. And if this is what we're quote unquote left with, I think that's pretty good. So obviously Rey is a great wrestler. He's one of my favorites. I think he's one of the more underrated wrestlers in the world, and he's easily a top tier luchador. So I'm totally okay with him having his championship. Hopefully he can actually defend it a bit in Mexico, maybe go down to AAA or something. That'd be really cool. But back to the match tonight. As I said, Jeff Jarrett was working over the leg. After Rey actually had started early, he hit a dive before the bell even rang onto the, to all the slap nuts, including Jarrett. But obviously, Jeff took back over, worked over the leg. Later in the match, as Fenix was on the top rope and he went to run across them, Jay Lethal jumped up onto the apron and he ended up eating a kick, but he was also able to interrupt Fenix's run across, so Fenix just has to jump back into the ring. Sanjay then hopped up onto the apron to distract Aubrey, who, shout out to her, once again shoved Karen Jarrett to continue the greatest feud in AEW right now. Jarrett versus Aubrey, best feud of the year, hands down, book it. But this distraction by Sanjay allowed Jarrett to hit a low blow. He rolled up Fenix, but Fenix was able to kick out. Jarrett then was able to hit the stroke, but he was able to get his feet underneath the bottom rope and break up the pin. Fenix then came back up and he went to hit the ropes and he did a slide to take on Satnam Singh. But this distraction, along with the injured leg, going into a dude that big, allowed Jarrett to come in and he attempted to lock in the figure four. However, Fenix was able to reverse that into a roll-up, and he was able to keep Jarrett down for the 3 count. So, very good opening match. Not very good opening match here. Obviously, big Ray Phoenix fan. Jeff Jarrett, Danny was saying in our chat that Jeff Jarrett is more of a contender for this title than Phoenix is, who's holding the title. I vehemently disagree with that. But Jeff Jarrett matches are always fun. They always have, that element of the slapnuts interfering. Anytime Aubrey now refs these matches has an even more fun of an element with her feud with Karen. So I enjoyed this good opening match. I'm interested to see where they go with Ray from here. Obviously, we had a match later in the night, which we will get to, determining his next number one contender. But it's interesting. Obviously, this wasn't planned. Tony's calling this on the fly. So we'll see what they end up doing. I think going with Jarrett here for the first week, buy yourself a little bit of time is a great move. Obviously, Jarrett is credible and he, instant heat anytime that guy comes out. So smart move here, good match. You give Phoenix his first title defense, and then you can kind of figure out where you want to go from here past next week, where you have the winner of the later triple threat match facing off against Ray. We then move on to a vignette where we saw MJF basically steal his father's book because Buck doesn't need help after everything that happened on Grand Slam out in Long Island. Also, if I cut out a little bit, I do apologize. Apparently, I'm having a little bit of Wi-Fi issues because, of course, I am. New laptops coming soon. I swear to God, middle of this line. Anyway, they did acknowledge the fact that Cole ended up messing up his ankle last week and is indeed on crutches. They didn't announce yet what had happened, but in order to cheer Cole up, MJF invited him onto his father's boat. A little bit later, after some drinking and bopping around, they are fishing, and Max brings up to Cole how long he was on the phone with Roderick Strong last week after Roddy called and was pretty distraught about what was going on. Cole tries to explain how worried he was that Roddy really, needed him there. He had to be there for Roddy. And Max is like, okay, dude. And then tries to play it off and asks Cole if he wants a beer. Oh, hello, producer boy. Thank you for jumping in here. As Max goes to the cooler to get a beer, and Cole's continuing to explain why he had to be there for Roddy, MJF instead pulls out the Dynamite diamond ring from the cooler as producer boy has just pulled up. And as he's doing this and putting it on, Cole kind of has that look, as we just saw, and goes, Max, you didn't just bring me out here to hit me with the Dynamite diamond ring and throw me overboard, right? And Max panics, puts his hands behind his back, takes it off. He goes, no, dude, that is the furthest thing from the truth. Last thing on my mind, I would never do that. And then Cole starts explaining to Max that they need to talk, saying that, in a healthy relationship and a healthy friendship, a person should have more than one friend. And that's important, in a relationship, because you can't just constantly be hanging out with the same person all the time. And then Max takes this in and he's like, okay, Cole, who said, he's new to having friends and MJF is trying to learn. So he's like, that's cool. If you want to have more than one friend, I understand that, but it's not for Max. It's just not for him. Cole then interrupts the conversation because he gets a huge bite on his line and he starts reeling it in. And as producer boy has already put up, it is then revealed that Paul White is on the other end of the line in a ducky tube, just trying to get a swim on and accidentally gets hooked in the mouth. However, they all make up for it by allowing Paul to hop into the boat and share a beer with him. And he says that, better than you, baby. They're all right. Another great segment out of these two guys. They continue to be hilarious when they do these things. James, who unfortunately does not have his voice, is in the comments, though, so he can still talk to us a little bit, saying that he would mount Captain Insano on his wall. Honestly, yeah, that's a pretty big catch. I don't know. You better have a pretty big wall if you're going to do that. But, yeah, definitely a keeper. Hopefully it's just in season. As I was saying, though, another great showing from these two guys. All of their vignettes have been amazing, and this was no different. Just 10 out of 10. And we still continue to see that, insecurity from MJF, where he still maybe thinks that he should betray Cole, but he again thought better of it. He actually learned something today where, friends need more than one friend. And it seems that he's going to be a little more okay with the fact that Cole is going to be friends with Roderick Strong, at least for now. We'll see. Also, producer boy in the chat chirping James, saying that James would mount Captain Insano. You heard it here first. Yeah, he got you there, James. That's a phrasing. He got you there. All right. After this, we then went to commercial and came back to that carny piece of shit, Don Callis. He was being interviewed in the ring by Renee Paquette. He was obviously joined by Konosuke Takeshita. Renee asked Don a question about him being in Japan because before we went to commercial, we saw him and Takeshita, or footage of him and Takeshita in Japan hunting for Kota Ibushi. Don ignores it, introduces the newest member of the Don Callis family, Sammy Guevara, because he wanted to do that. And then Renee once again asks about the footage from Japan. Don now acquiesces and says that there's more. He brought out his personal film crew to Japan as they went and hunted for Kota Ibushi. Don and Takeshita then on the Jumbotron are shown invading Ibushi's personal dojo out in Japan, where they go in and meet his partner, or his training partner, and they rough him up a bit before Ibushi comes in for the save. He gets the upper hand early, and he's raining ground and pound onto Takeshita until Don whacks him across the back with an umbrella. That doesn't do fuck all, but it does distract Ibushi enough to get up off of Takeshita and start going after Don, which allows Takeshita to pick up a kettlebell and knock Ibushi upside in the head with it, basically knocking him out. Where are Chad or Eric? Chad, I don't know where he is. Eric, I'm not sure where he is either, but at least I got producer boy at my back here, so I appreciate that from him. Also, hi, Danny. Danny also in the chat. Danny sick. Like I said, everybody's sick today. I don't know how it happened. It's so weird. Anyway, after we see the end of this footage, Sammy hops on the mic and tries to explain that he is the hero of his story and not the villain, because Jericho was always holding him back because Jericho is selfish. And while Sammy was sitting there expecting Jericho to pass the torch, he never did. So Sammy had to go and take it. Don then, says that obviously they're going to end everything that Omega and Jericho and Ibushi stand for at Wrestle Dream on Sunday, as Takeshita, Sammy, and Will Ospreay team up to face that trio. So I'm looking forward to that match, just generally, just because I think that's a lot of talent in the ring. I'm excited for that, but I'm cutting out again, aren't I? Wait for it. All right, there we go. I'm catching up a bit. Like I said, I am looking forward to that match just due to the sheer amount of talent in it. I think it's going to go well, but we will end up seeing what happens with that. Did this sell me on the match? Not necessarily, but I think I'm just kind of sold on the talent. So we'll see. I honestly, and now honestly, as for the Don Callis family with Sammy joining, I did like that they, did the. I am really fucking up here. There we go. I did like last week that they did the callback to Jericho and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania, but I don't know. Sammy's in the chat saying that. Danny's in the chat saying that Sammy's a bad babyface, but he's not wrong in the Jericho feud. And yeah, I always like when the heel is right, when they actually have a justified motive for doing what they did. I think it makes a lot more sense, even if they're going about it perhaps the wrong way. I do think it makes them a lot more compelling. Him joining Don, I could take that or leave it, but at least it does give Sammy a compelling reason to do what he did. All right, let's move on real quick. After this, we had a post-match promo from Ricky Starks after last week's Texas Death Match against Bryan Danielson on Collision. Starks says that Bryan has yet to pin or submit him, which is true. So he still considers himself atop of Bryan in the standings and the rankings or whatever he said. Wheeler Yuta then comes over and tries to apologize for putting his hands on Ricky after the match. If you didn't watch Collision, Yuta came over and started to attack Ricky after the match because Ricky was trying to go up to Brian. He was only trying to shake his hand, and that's why Yuta apologized, saying he didn't realize that's what Starks wanted to do. And then once he saw that, he backed off and was attempting to apologize. Starks says that the next time Wheeler puts his hands on him, that he won't even let him leave the ring. So, yes, producer boy's favorite guy, Wheeler Yuta. Yuta then responds that he tried to be the bigger man, but he actually thinks Ricky is all style and no substance, just all flash. And he himself always gets up from what the BCC throw at him, while Ricky has been unable to do so twice now, being both in the strap match and now this Texas death match. So Wheeler, in an attempt to prove himself better than Ricky, challenged him to a match at WrestleDream on Sunday. But instead of responding, Ricky just decides to walk away, which Wheeler calls him out on. And then we are shown the graphic where the match was made official by Tony Khan. So we'll be seeing that matchup on Sunday. Despite producer boy's objections to Wheeler Yuta, I'm actually looking forward to this match. I do think Ricky pulls it out. To give a little spoiler to our hopeful future prediction show, we'll see how everyone's health is doing. Because Ricky needs to win here, and a good win over the BCC would be fine. And Wheeler's in a good enough position where he can take the pin. He's gotten some big pins recently in some of the other matches. So I'm okay. I'm okay with Wheeler Yuta losing. Producer boy in the chat is saying that Wheeler should beat Ricky, and then Ricky should just go to WWE where he wants to be. Allegedly, he was seen backstage at one time. Obviously, he's close with Cody, as a lot of people know. So I don't know if he wants to go to WWE. He seems to be doing a pretty good job here. He's pretty top of the card on Collision. I think he's in a pretty good spot personally. If he wants to go there, cool. But I don't think Wheeler's going to beat him, at least not this week. I don't know what his contract status is, admittedly. If his contract's up, then yeah, maybe Wheeler beats him and he leaves, and we'll see. But Jade was also in a pretty good spot. Well, Jade wants different things. We'll see what Ricky wants. I don't know, what Ricky is thinking. So, yeah, we'll see. I think though, for Jade, I think WWE would be good for her for a lot of reasons. I think the Performance Center will be very helpful for her. Not that I don't think she's a good wrestler, but I think obviously she has a lot to learn. And I mean that respectfully. She's obviously only been wrestling a few years. The Performance Center, the amount of reps you get in WWE, I think will help her a lot. I think it'll help her brand power as well. Obviously, their reach is a lot bigger than AEW's. So, look, I'm totally cool with Jade leaving. I thought I'm a little disappointed. I'm not going to lie. I really liked her in AEW. I wanted to see where that went. I also don't think they're going to let her call herself that bitch in WWE. But, yeah, and I agree with Danny. And I know you were jumping on another comment there, producer boy. But, yeah, I do think Ricky would be a little more lost in WWE. He's a good young star near the top of the card on Collision right now. I don't think he would be anywhere near that in WWE or NXT right now. So that's what I think. And my Wi-Fi is fucking up today. Does he go for a meaningless title? I don't know. Maybe. But I do think he needs. The titles are all in a weird position where it's considering that's what Ricky is. It's hard for a heel to, end up with a title at the moment just because of where everything is. Christian has the TNT title. Samoa Joe has the Ring of Honor TV title. If you wanted to throw a Ring of Honor title on him, he's not getting the FTW title back. The International Championship, yeah, I guess that's on Ray, but that's in such a state of flux right now that I don't really know what they would do with it. So that would be the one title I think he could get because it is held by a face. But I think we kind of have to see where Moxley ends up. If they want to put the title back on him when he gets healthy. So that's a big question mark at the moment, which is the only reason why I don't think they put it on Ricky right away. Also, to the TNT title has been featured a lot more on Collision than Dynamite of late, considering it is the TNT title. And and that show is indeed on TNT, but meaning the World Heavyweight Championship, which I don't consider necessarily meaningless, but obviously I think it's lesser than the titles Roman has. But that's because it's new and they're trying to build it back up. Although I do think that Seth is doing a very good job with that. But let's not get too bogged down on this. Like I said, I'm excited for that match on Sunday. Two, young stars. Hopefully they put on a good match and producer boy shuts the fuck up about Wheeler Yuta. Let's move on to the triple threat tonight, which saw Nick Jackson face off against Brian Cage and facing off against Claudio Castagnoli. The winner of this getting a shot at the AEW International Championship. I believe that is going to be next week on Dynamite. And honestly, this was a really good match. I thought it was a match of the night. For me, I truly enjoy this. Everybody got really good offense in. These guys had a lot of chemistry together, which Cage and Nick Jackson, I'm not super surprised that they had good chemistry because they've worked together a lot before. Claudio, obviously, he's been working with the Bucks a bit more lately, so I guess their chemistry is coming up. But yeah, as far as I know, he hasn't done too much against Cage unless he's been doing stuff in Ring of Honor or there was stuff prior to his WWE run. But either way, I thought these three guys looked absolutely phenomenal together. This was so good. The match ended up ending with Claudio laying in the hammer and anvil elbows onto Cage before getting him up and hitting a Ricola bomb. However, before Claudio can make the pin, Nick, who had been previously knocked out of the ring with a pop-up uppercut by Claudio, he springboards his way back in, hits a Hurricanrana onto Claudio, sending him out of the ring, and he pins Cage to get the number one contender spot for the I almost call it the All-Atlantic, for the International Championship. Like I said, great match of the night. If you're going to watch one match from this evening, I would recommend this one. Danny in the chat saying that Claudio should win the international title. And, I don't disagree with that if Mox is going to be out for a while. Obviously, like I said, I think because of, his injury, concussions are a little tricky. You don't know when people are going to be able to come back. You saw somebody like Adam Cole. He was out for a very long time with his concussion, and then it's a little bit different. But you see guys in the NFL, they'll get a concussion in a game and not even miss the next week. So it really depends on the concussion, how bad it is, if Mox maybe wants to take a little bit of time off just because now he finally has the opportunity. It really depends. So if he's going to be out a while and you want to get the international title back into the BCC and get it, and yeah, I'm cool with that. Now, I do think Ray is going to do something similar to what Moxley was going to do, which is, defend the title every week, be a workhorse about it. And I'm totally cool with that. I would also totally be cool with Claudio doing the same thing. So I think as long as we get a similar run to what we were expecting out of Mox, where it is defended every week, where we do see a long run, but not nearly long enough to even get close to challenging Orange Cassidy, just to show how insane and how difficult that run was, I'm okay with it either way. So yeah, that would be that. Producer boy was still saying the wrong Buck brother getting a singles run. Dude, you'd be surprised. Nick Jackson's singles matches are always really good. I truly think Nick is one of the more underrated singles wrestlers, just strictly due to the fact that he never does it. I think this is only the fourth time in AEW that he's had a match where he was wrestling by himself. I believe that's what they said on commentary. So when he gets going, he can really get going. Oh, Nick looks like he's 68. Matt's older than him by like 4 years. So I don't know, dude. I disagree with that entirely. But it was producer boy saying that again. But Nick, I truly love when Nick gets on a roll in the ring. He's so fluid, he's so quick, and I really love watching that. I think his match next week against Phoenix is going to be great. The last time they had a match, it was really, really good. So I'm looking forward to that a lot. I'm going to really, really enjoy it. And like I said, if you're going to watch one match tonight, watch this one. It was great all around. After this, we chat to a vignette for the Righteous. They are facing, or they were supposed to be facing, Better Than You Bebe on Sunday for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships. These guys are cool. I've seen a little bit of them in Ring of Honor when I like try to catch the pay-per-views and stuff. I know James is really high on them. They're cool, and I honestly I need to catch a bit more of them and to get a true opinion. But I did like what they did here, calling out the quote unquote fake friendship between MJF and Cole, and trying to tug at that thread. So very interested to see what they do here. If they stick around in AEW or they end up going back to Ring of Honor. But this is a very interesting duo. I don't know where Stu Grayson is. I do believe he was a part of them for a bit. And that actually ended up with a match against the Dark Order in Ring of Honor, which was very good. I actually caught that. That was awesome. So I'm very interested to see what they do here. And we will jump into the status of the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships now, as we got an in-ring promo from MJF and Adam Cole. Cole on the crutches, as we saw earlier in the vignette, and he actually also had a cast on his ankle, which should have been the dead giveaway, as Cole comes out and announces that he actually broke his ankle in 3 different places and tore some ligaments in there as well. So far worse than anything I thought any of us expected coming out of Grand Slam. The fact that he was even able to walk and finish what he had to do last Wednesday is unbelievable. But this obviously sucks. Cole just got back. He's in the middle of an amazing run here with MJF, both in the storyline and with these titles. It really, really sucks to see this happen. Sometimes people say it's better to break it than sprain it. Man, I don't know. This is bad, especially when you got to go into the knife like this. This really sucks. He's probably going to end up having a bunch of screws and maybe a plate or 2 in there. This could be a long road to recovery. So, hopefully Cole surgery goes well and everything goes well and he's back as soon as he could possibly be. But after explaining all of this to us, Cole attempts to relinquish the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships, but MJF cuts him off. Max says it's his fault that Cole got hurt because he needed help, and he knows how much the Ring of Honor tag titles mean to Adam. So he's going to defend them in a handicap match on Sunday against the Righteous, which leads to very, very interesting stuff here. Because, obviously Max doesn't like wrestling, and now for his friend, he's going to wrestle in a handicap match, a match I don't think Max has been a part of in AEW, although somebody probably has fact checking on that. And, he's going to subject himself and his bad neck to more punishment than he ever has because he wants to, hold on to these titles for his friend for when Cole ends up returning. Now, granted, I don't think, Max will be able to hold on to them for that long, considering it's a broken ankle and that's going to take a minute. But I appreciate the effort out of Max. Cole's both bewildered and excited and very happy Max is going to try it. But, we'll see what happens. We then have Roderick Strong interrupt with the Adam. And he comes onto the stage in a wheelchair, still dressed in a hospital gown and the neck brace on. And he's yelling at Cole that it's an emergency. MJF, before Adam can say anything, says that while he still thinks Roddy is a simp, and then gets a simp chant, he respects the fact that Roddy is Cole's boy, and Cole should go, and he'll be waiting when Cole comes back. So Cole hops his way up the stage, and leaves with Roderick Strong. Now, I will get to what happened after this in a second, but this obviously, like I was saying, this has a lot of implications here. We'll see what ends up happening with the tag titles. I wouldn't be surprised if MJF won at least once, although that might kind of be burying the Righteous. I don't know, that it feels a little iffy. Obviously, this is another instance where Tony Khan's gonna have to call it on the fly. He wasn't expecting, one of his top guys to ruin his ankle jumping off a ramp. I also wonder, if they're going to keep that ramp in the future. Maybe we're gonna not. Maybe that's the end of elevated ramps in AEW. We will see. But this obviously sucks. But I am curious to see how Tony ends up playing it, just to see how it ends up going. Like it. What happens, and I understand like he's kind of putting it in a corner here. But I am just curious to see how he's able to audible here. To go into the chat really quick. Producer Boy saying he thinks it might be a work because after he went to the hospital, he announced that he accepted the match, implying he was fine, and now they're switching the stories. Maybe. I don't know. It's possible. I don't think they. Well, I was going to say I don't think they put an entire cast on just for a work, but I've seen dumber things done in wrestling. So I don't know. Also, Danny's saying bury the nobodies. The nobodies would be the Righteous. They're doing pretty well on Ring of Honor from what I've seen. Uncle Howdy, you cut your ear shaving. That sucks, dude. Sorry to hear that. But where did that even come? Whatever. Anyway, it depends, Danny. If they want to try to keep these guys up on the main roster and keep them as a threat, you might have to let them win. But again, it depends on how Tony wants to play it. I do think, MJF might win one of these matches. Maybe Cole nominates Roddy to team up with him and defend the titles, which would be kind of funny. It's a possibility if you want to try to keep, the whole Cole, not Cole, but the whole MJF Roderick Strong dynamic going, where they truly don't like each other because they're fighting over Adam Cole. But who knows? Where did it come from? Oh, the comment. Apparently there's a ghost. There's the only explanation. There's a ghost, and that's that. So it is almost October. So anyway, as Cole left with Roderick Strong and the Kingdom, we then got MJF attempting to say that he doesn't like something before he is interrupted by the music of Bullet Club Gold. As the Switchblade Jay White comes out with the guns and Juice Robinson and Card Switch. And Switch actually, taps guns up and then has them go to the back so that he can have a one-on-one with MJF. Let's see. Jay says specifically that he sent the rest of Bullet Club Gold to the back because he wanted to have the one-on-one. Actually, not because he wanted to have the one-on-one moment with Max, but so that Max should have a one-on-one moment with him. And then MJF asked if he's smoking that good Colorado grass, which Jay White is the GOAT of AEW. We'll see. Well, I'll get to that in a minute, but we will see. A weed chant then broke out because of that. And then Excalibur said that they were 5,420 feet above sea level, which absolutely just cracked up Taz. So that's the only reason I bring it up. And $5 is on Botchamania, the next one in the Taz segment. Max then says that he was offended eventually when he started being compared to Jay White as he was rising through the ranks of wrestling, comparing himself to Filet Mignon that can have things around him, but the star of the show is still the filet. Whereas Jay White is tofu, where it'll take on the flavor or the seasoning of whatever you put on it, but you need to put things on it for it to taste good. Otherwise, it's bland. And Jay, he got the flashy entrance. He got the cool theme music. He has all the cool merch. He was given the keys to the best faction in all of wrestling. But if you take all of that away, he's still bland and he's still boring. I thought Jay White was dead in the water here. I really did. But Jay had a pretty nice response himself. He says that he's actually pretty happy that he got his own personalized MJF insult, but there is something missing. And he thinks it's not necessarily Max's neck not doing great. Jay looks like he supplies Jeff Hardy. It's not necessarily Max's neck, but it's probably his bromance with Adam Cole that's making Max soft. White then actually goes on to say that this is all technically his doing, everything that's happened to Max, because when he took Cole out at Forbidden Door last year, he called it Forbidden Door Episode 1. I actually kind of like that. We'll get to that, producer boy. Don't spoil. It started a whole chain of events that eventually got Max and Cole together. And then it led to Cole almost breaking Max's neck at Wembley. And then Cole ended up breaking his ankle last week. So Jay White has been in his own in Max's life for the past year or so. But now he's going to step up and do it straight to Max's face by taking away the one thing that matters to MJF, the AEW World Championship. He's going to take that and leave Max with all of his pores. Now, Jade had a great spot in here. It's the worst character in Sons of Anarchy. You know, you can keep talking shit about Jay White. You're going to be proven wrong. He listed off a ton of his accolades in the middle of this promo, and I'm not going to list all of them, but, you know, it's all the ones he normally does, like selling out Madison Square Garden and everything. The dude is I almost said a primetime player, but the dude is a top of the card level player. This guy is so good. I think there are very few people who could have had what was said to them by Max and come back and actually not just survive, but still look good. Jay White is leading Collision. Thank you, Ricky. He is the top of the card in Collision. He is the man there, and they are going to make him the man there. I know Brian is going to be a big force over on Collision, and that's fine. But Jay White is one of the top guys on that show, and he will continue to be one of the top guys on that show, if not the top guy, now that Punk isn't there anymore. And at minimum, he will be the top heel on that show, along with the rest of Bullet Club Gold. Guns up. So, honestly, if you weren't in by now, you better get in because, you know, the bandwagon's filling up fast. And I don't want to hear, you know, in 5 months when this guy, if he ends up with the title, which I would honestly, God, love to see, if he ends up with the title, I don't want to hear you guys saying that, you know, you were always in on Jay White when you're comparing him to shitty characters on a TV show that ended 10 years ago. So get in now. Get in while you still can. Because let me tell you right now, the Switchblade Jay White in AEW stock is only rising. I know it took a minute, and, you know, James and I have discussed this before. It took him a minute when he joined because nobody thought he was going to be available to AEW. Everybody thought he was going to WWE, and it took a sec to get the ball rolling because they had nothing for him. Now he's got a really cool faction, and, you know, obviously he's got the really cool entrance and the really cool merch, but not only can this dude wrestle, he can cut a promo, and he can lead that show. So this is going to be an awesome feud. We'll see what ends up happening. We'll see if he takes the title. I actually do not hate Jay White taking the title off of MJF if this is the Jay White we're going to get doing it. And I'm 100% here for that. All right. Producer boy saying he's the leader of the bandwagon. You've been a little wishy-washy on him, but we'll see. All right. Let's head backstage where we had a sit-down interview. This is actually pre-tape. With Christian Cage and Darby Allin. They're facing off for the TNT Championship on Sunday in a 2 out of 3 falls match, following Christian's win in the triple threat match for the title, in which he pinned Luchasaurus, which is an interesting dynamic, but we'll see what ends up coming out of that. JR, who was doing the interview, and side note, this is where I like JR, personally. I think he's really good at these sit-down interviews. I think he asks good questions. I think it allows him, you know, because it's pre-taped, you know, if he flubs something, it's fine. It's all right, Jim, we can do it again. and he brings a level of gravitas to these interviews where, you know, he might not necessarily be the best on the mic anymore, but I think he still does a really good job with these. So I'm glad that they're doing more of them with him, and it keeps him involved in the show. You know, I'm cool with that. Anyway, JR asked Christian about removing the controversy over, you know, who was the TNT champion, and Christian responds that he's been champ for 5 months and he defended his title in a triple threat, and he has no idea what the fuck JR is talking about. I did not call Sons of Anarchy garbage, Danny. I said you were comparing him to what you said was a shit character on a show that ended 10 years ago. Let's see. AEW did not give anything special to Jay. The music is the same. The guns weren't the best, and Juice is just goofy. And with all that, he makes magic. Now, I would agree the guns weren't the best, but I think this is a very good role for them. You know, being, I don't want to say lackeys, but being the tag team in this faction is a great role for them. We had a big problem on the show, spearheaded by Danny, where we didn't like them as tag champs mostly because they took them off the Acclaim, but they just didn't feel like they were, I don't know, either ready or big enough, depending on what day it was, for that opportunity. And granted, obviously, they just ended up being transitional champions, but it was a little bit weird. So we didn't love that. But I think this is a great role for them. You know, they're shitheads, and that's kind of the point with Bullet Club Gold. I love Juice. Juice is a madman, and I think he's a great character. And, you know, Jay is the brains and, you know, the glue that holds everything together, and clearly the top star in that faction. So I really, really like Bullet Club Gold. I don't, maybe they didn't give him necessarily anything special. You know, obviously, yeah, he had the music, but the entrance, when they do the full entrance, which, you know, was originally the Guns entrance with the spotlight and everything, that is fucking sick. You got to admit, AEW did give him that, and that thing is fucking awesome. So you do have to give them that. But back to the interview here. JR then asked Christian about the match on Sunday and bringing up the fact that Christian has been pinned twice by Darby. And he claims that they're bullshit pins. Darby only wins because, you know, he uses his skateboard or he uses a table or whatever. So honestly, this is where the interview kind of started going off the rails a bit, and I had a little trouble keeping track of what was going on. Darby starts saying that there's no way he could beat him in Seattle, and then Christian starts in with the mind games, bringing up Darby's deceased uncle because, you know, Christian has to bring up a dead family member, and then Darby calls him on that, saying that the only people he, you know, talks shit about are deceased. And then Christian starts bringing up, you know, the fact, oh, you're going to bring people to watch you lose. You're going to bring your mom. You're going to bring Nick Wayne. You're going to bring Nick Wayne's mom. Actually, scratch that. I could text her myself. I have her digits. And Darby starts getting more and more frustrated, and then they start fighting over Nick Wayne. You know, Christian saying that, you know, he'd be a way better mentor than Darby would be. And it just kind of started going off the rails after this. Christian, like, went after Darby's face paint, and Darby grabbed a water bottle that he couldn't find and started washing it off, saying that he doesn't need the paint. He's not hiding behind it. And it was, I don't know, it was a little weird towards the end of it. Not necessarily weird, just chaotic and a little off the rails. So not the best segment. I thought Christian started strong, but Darby just came off looking, I don't know, like he didn't come off looking great here just because, like, he just looked so out of sorts. Like, it looked like Christian was in his head. And normally that's not somewhere Darby is. So perhaps that was the point. Perhaps they wanted it to look like, you know, Christian's in his head, because Darby was certainly acting like it. So we'll see how this match goes. Ooh. Excuse me. Like I said, I am coming off illness myself. I do still have a little bit of a frog in my throat, but we'll see how this match goes on Sunday. 2 out of 3 falls should be pretty good. Sorry about that. It could have been a lot worse. The rest of the guys could have showed up hacking, and I would have been carrying it with half a voice, and the rest of them would have had none. After this, we had the second multi-man match of the night, which saw Matt Jackson, Orange Cassidy, Penta Cerro Miedo, and Austin Gunn all face off. These four men and their teams will be competing for a number one contendership for the AEW Tag Team Championships on Sunday at Wrestle Dream. Also, side note, I found out Wrestle Dream was on Sunday today. So, very interesting play there, I guess. We were all kind of surprised that they made this pay-per-view in the first place. It is in a bit of a weird spot. Also, you're coming right off a Grand Slam, so it's not necessarily the whole all-in, all-out situation, but you did just build up a huge card for last week, and then a week and a half later, you're doing a pay-per-view. So, is it a little tricky? Yes, but they just pulled it off with all in and all out. So I guess in Tony Khan, we trust. Also, producer boy in the chat saying that's the last pay-per-view before the HBO announcement. So fuck it. That has been rumored a lot. I do believe Warner Brothers Discovery actually put out a press release lauding how good Grand Slam was and all the numbers it did over there. So that could be a build up towards them indeed and announcing something with Max, and a streaming deal or something of that nature. Anyway, back to the match here, the four-way match. We had a great spot coming out of commercial where Orange was actually up on the top rope, and instead of diving into the ring, he just kind of fell backwards onto Matt Jackson and Penta on the outside. He then went back inside to face off against Austin, who actually looked like he was going to go for a pedigree and then switched up to a powerbomb. But he ended up eating a destroyer, and then from Penta, and then I think Matt hit Penta with a destroyer, and then Orange hit a destroyer, or Penta hit Orange with a destroyer, and then Orange hit Austin with a destroyer, and everybody went down. Was pretty funny. Eventually, they all get up and they're fighting with each other. Matt ends up rolling up Orange at one point, and then he hits a double Northern Light suplex on Penta and Austin Gunn for a triple pin, but all three of them kick out. Matt then tries to hit a BTE trigger on Penta, but Penta ends up blocking it, and he gets up and takes out Matt and then Austin Gunn. Penta then tries to go for the pile driver onto Austin, but he eats an Orange punch, and then Orange hits Matt with a beach break. Austin comes in and hits a famouser on Orange and goes for the pin, but Orange is able to kick out. The two of them then end up on the outside, and Matt and Penta end up trading identical blows, hitting each other with super kicks, and then hitting each other's legs with super kicks, and then hitting a couple lariats, and then hitting each other with lariats again. And then they both get really fired up, and they go to hit the ropes, but as Penta does so, Austin Gunn takes out his legs. Matt, very confused about what to do, turns around, and for his troubles, eats an Orange punch. 1, 2, 3, and Orange Cassidy gets the win, heading into Sunday's four-way tag match. So Orange, for those of you confused, is tagging. He's tagging with Hook. Taz actually made a pretty funny comment about that, where he not only, because Excalibur goes, "He stole your colors," and Taz goes, "And my son." And I thought Excalibur was going to lose it there on air. He probably did. But this is a good match. I don't think it was as good as a triple threat. I think it's a little bit harder with the four ways sometimes, but a lot of it also during the PIP, which I don't think helped. But it really got going there towards the end, especially after Orange hit that quote unquote dive to the outside. Let's see. Andrew Zarion announced he'd be joining, so it's legit for the HBO thing. All right, that's cool. Yeah, no, I'm excited. If they're gonna do the pay-per-views on HBO Max, I'm still calling it HBO Max. Fuck you, Warner Brothers Discovery. I look, as much as Discovery has ruined that platform, it's still a pretty good platform. Hopefully I haven't had a problem personally with Bleacher Report streaming wise, but I know a lot of other people have. So hopefully the actual physical streaming there we go. Rissy steals your color, now your dive, and my son. But hopefully these streaming problems end up being fixed for people on HBO. Hopefully they are able to put all of the old pay-per-views on there, which would be great. As of right now, you can only watch the old ones if you had paid for it So, which can be annoying, if you go to a friend's house and you watch it, you got to come back and then still pay the $50 for it, which sucks. So, if they do that, that'd be really cool. I'd be really excited. I'd definitely go back and watch some old matches. The Orange Cassidy versus Pac one would be great. I'd go back. Honestly, I'd go back and watch that first pay-per-view again. Probably the first couple. So that would be awesome. As I said for the match, it wasn't as good as Triple Threat, but it was very good. I think, like I said, it got going after that dive and all those destroyer spots. I'm interested to see what happens with this four-way tag match on Sunday. I do have this really weird nagging feeling that Orange might turn on Hook, which I desperately don't want. But Orange seems kind of lost without a title right now, and Hook is kind of holding a title right now. So hopefully that doesn't happen, because that would royally, truly fucking suck. So, plus also we just kind of did the heel turn for the FTW title thing. We don't need to do it again. It's literally just rehashing the Jungle Boy thing, except it'd probably be better because it's Orange and we give a shit. Okay. After that, we then had Willow Nightingale versus Julia Hart. Julia Hart is facing Chris Statlander for the TBS Championship on Sunday, so this is a bit of a tune-up for her, although not necessarily, because Willow is quite the opponent. But she is unfortunately with only one eye, because Julia had sprayed the mist in one of her eyes recently. It was a very nice moonsault. That was indeed the finish to the match, which we will get to in a second. Unfortunately, though, for this match, it was in the time slot of death again. So I guess we're back to that for the women. But at least it was a bit of a fresh matchup. I think they mentioned this was the first time the two of them were going one-on-one. So that was pretty cool. I'm a big fan of Willow, not just because she's from New York, but I think she's way underutilized. And she could, she's been great in Ring of Honor. And I think she still has the New Japan title. New Japan Strong title, but she's definitely somebody I think they could market more. I think I don't want to compare her, just say she's Bailey, but she does have those qualities where her theme, her bubbliness, the way she carries herself, like that would be go over a lot with kids very well. So, and adults too. I think they could use her a lot better. Also, producer boy in the chat saying that they've done a good job of not exposing Julia. They're treating her like they should have with Jade. Yeah, I would agree with that a little bit. Obviously, Jade was slingshotted immediately to a title they more or less created just for her. So I think it's a little bit different, because Jade came out the gates a superstar, where her first match she was teaming with Shaq against Cody and I think Red Velvet, and the only reason it was Red Velvet is because what's her name was hurt, I think, or pregnant, I forget. But yeah, Jade was out of the gate, top of the card, and they didn't want to go for the AEW Women's title just yet, so they literally made a title for her. Julia's obviously been around for a while, but she's very, very young, and I do agree. Yeah, they've done a good job protecting her. She's built herself up slowly. They've given her the time to work. Obviously, she was doing a lot of work on Dark and Elevation. Now I think she's doing a lot of work on Rampage and stuff. So yeah, there's a lot less botches now than there used to be. Her entrance is really cool. I think her rolling with Brody King is also is a good. It's really good for her in just terms of look and everything. Keeps the cohesive unit of the House of Black, and I've enjoyed her presentation. Not just as she's not necessarily the manager for the House of Black, but the valet. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. The valet for the House of Black. But I've enjoyed her presentation now as a wrestler a lot. So they've done a great job with her. I believe she's undefeated this year, and she's on a serious win streak, which has granted her the TBS Championship opportunity. To get into the match, like I said, Willow only had one eye. And she ended up dominating early because of her side advantage until Julia escapes out of the ring. And then when she actually goes underneath the ring behind Brody and then crawls around the corner. And while Willow is distracted by Brody, Julia is able to attack her from behind and regain the advantage. As we come out of the break, Julia is able to lock in her heartless submission, but Willow is able to make it to the ropes. And then as they both get on their feet, Willow hits a pounce out of freaking nowhere. And because Julia, weighs like nothing, she just went flying. Willow then is able to take Julia and hang her up in the corner, going for the stampede. And this is really cool touch. I like this. As she's going to the opposite corner, she starts looking at Brody and doing his bark at him, which is great. But unfortunately, as Willow charges in for the cannonball, Julia is able to sit up into the corner to the top rope and avoid it. Willow is then down. And as we saw earlier, Julia hit that absolutely gorgeous moonsault, and she was able to pick up the win. After the match, Julia put Willow into the Heartless to draw Chris Statlander, and Stat eventually comes down for the save, but Julia rolls out of the ring. And in a rare move, somebody actually chased the person, and Stat went after her, but Julia hid behind Brody King, and there really wasn't much Stat could do about that there. So, looking forward to this match on Sunday. I agree a lot, like I said before, with what Producer Boy said in chat about how good Julia has looked lately. So I'm excited. We'll end up seeing what happens on Sunday. I do think Stat retains, but I think Julia's going to have a very good showing, and it'll help propel her into bigger and better things. And then let's move on to what was the closing segment of the night, which was the contract signing between Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland. I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm not going to do either of these guys justice with my recap here, but I will do my best. I was doing my best to get this set up. It was a little last minute because I was on my own. So I do apologize that I'm going to fuck all of this up. Swerve started pretty strong. He pointed out how different he and Hangman were as both people and wrestlers. His big line was, buckshot, kill shot, trying to put out the difference there. What's a farmer to a mogul? Yeah, that's what he said. What's a farmer to a mogul? What's a buckshot to a kill shot? I think he slipped another one in there too. So strong openings from Swerve. But Hangman responds by thanking Swerve, actually, for the things he said a few weeks ago, because it helped Hangman realize that he had been in a bit of a rut. There was a cloud hanging over his head all the time, and even though the sun shone down on him sometimes, like when he beat Moxley or, when he reunited with his friends in the Elite, he couldn't necessarily shake the cloud. And then this is where I kind of lost Hangman. He said something about the rain and not wanting to hold an umbrella up anymore because he wants to allow the rain to finally come down and wash everything away. It was something like that. And then, but he said he wants to be the best Hangman he could be, and that's what Swerve will get on Sunday. Swerve just kind of blows all that off and calls it cute, and says that he didn't really even have to be Hangman. He just wanted to get whatever that spot is that Hangman is in, no matter who it was, because he might be mentally unstable, as he put it. Because he's always creating an enemy, and he needs to defeat that enemy every day. Even when there isn't one, he makes one up. And now it's Hangman because he needs to take that spot and, push himself forward. Hangman comes back, reminding Swerve that he once said that he could have been and would have been the first Black AEW champion if he was given the opportunities that Hangman was. But that's just a hypothetical, and he and Hangman could sit there and argue about that all day. But what isn't a hypothetical is that Hangman had knocked every opportunity he was given out of the park, and he intends to do it again on Sunday. And as he's yelling in Swerve's face and they stand up, Hangman, a la Undertaker, stabs Swerve's hand with the pen into the contract. And then they are eventually pulled apart by the security that was there to keep both the Elite and the Mogul Embassy away from the contract signing. So, like I said, I don't think I did this a lot of justice. I thought both these guys came across great here. Swerve, it took him a minute, but I think he held his own against Hangman. Hangman, a very good story. So some people thinking it might be an allusion to, the cloud of CM Punk hanging over Hangman all the time due to the fact that, it was Hangman's promo that may have set some of what happened with Punk off in the first place. So, depending, from a certain point of view. But I think that both these guys acquitted themselves very well. I'm excited for this match. Even the build has been fine. It's been pretty good. Everything that happened with the Ring of Honor Trios titles the other week, and shout out to the Hung Bucks getting those titles back. That's really cool for them. I'm really excited. They put the juxtaposition of what they looked like when they had them a few years back, and then what they look like now. It was pretty funny. They put it up on BTE, but I'm really, yeah. There you go. Oh God, I miss Lucha Underground. That was so fucking good. I'm not just excited because of the build here. I'm just excited to see these two guys go at it. These guys are two very good wrestlers, and I think they're both very motivated. And I'm excited to see how this turns out, just because Hangman doesn't need the win because they've won their last few feuds, the Elite. But what Swerve was saying was true. It has seemed like Hangman has lacked a little bit of motivation. Just not necessarily in general, but he has been so involved with what's going on with the Elite. He hasn't really done anything for himself lately. Not that that's a bad thing, but he hasn't seemed like he wants to go after top spots where the way he was, at least in the storyline. So, and I think Swerve really needs a win because, I mean, did you just saw him? He's so fucking cool. And he's a guy, he's a guy who can be a top guy, if not the top guy. So, a win over Hangman is a huge feather in his cap, and it can push him into, bigger and better things. So I'm very, very curious to see what ends up happening on Sunday in this match. I'm very excited for it. I think it's going to be a great match. Now, this was supposed to be the end of the show, but we then cut backstage really quick. And we saw 4 men in all black, head to toe, assaulting Switchblade Jay White. And they were stomping him out, and then they picked him up and threw him onto the top of a road case into the wall. The camera then pans, and we see a 5th man, head to toe all black. However, with this freaking meme, this King of Queens meme, we see this person with MJF's devil mask on briefly before they cover the camera, and it goes to static and then cuts to black, and the episode ends. Now, obviously, we are led to, meant to believe that this is MJF reverting to, being the devil and taking drastic measures in order to take out Switchblade before he can do anything and come for his title. And I am a little curious to see, now that Adam is away, he was the thing that was making MJF be a good guy, and now perhaps that Cole is leaving and spending a little bit more time with Roddy. As we've seen MJF get a little upset about that, and despite the fact he's saying he's cool, he might not be. Maybe Cole breaking his ankle is what allows MJF to revert back to what he was. Now, we have James in the chat here saying that is Cole in the Kingdom. That's also possible. If it is, shout out Adam Cole doing that on 1 foot. But I think the math is wrong, because if I'm not mistaken, it was 4 people assaulting and then the 5th one just standing there. So there's only 4 guys between the Kingdom, Cole, and Roddy. So, I mean, unless they just hired dudes, it's totally plausible. It would be interesting. That would be, I think, a pretty good turn. But it wasn't. Trust me, this was something I was not expecting. I thought, Hangman stabs, fucking Swerve, show's over, cool, pull apart. Excuse me again. And then that was it. So this was very, very unexpected, but I'm very, very intrigued by where it's going. Producer boy saying it's someone trying to make Jay think it's MJF, and then Jay screws over MJF at WrestleGene for the tag titles. That's possible as well. I mean, and that could be, as James was saying, it could be Cole in the Kingdom, but Either way, I think we're setting up pretty good here for something. Either MJF starts to regress, and we start seeing the devil again. Maybe even perhaps turning back heel or losing the crowd. Who knows? And not that he's really changed his character too much. He's just pandering more to the crowd instead of insulting them. Or yeah, maybe perhaps it is somebody else. Maybe it is Cole in the Kingdom. Maybe it's a third party we haven't thought about yet. So obviously, this was a very, very brief thing, but it has opened a lot of questions for us in the future. We'll see what happens on Friday and Saturday and Sunday. So maybe we'll get some more answers there. I did want to go back to something Producer Boy said a bit earlier. A rumor is Tony buying Lucha Underground. That would be awesome. I do believe AAA owns it at the moment. I think that was their show. If he can get that onto Max, on the HBO Max, I would be so fucking happy because I've only seen parts of it and I wanted to watch it through. And the only thing it was on for a long time was like El Rey Network, and now I don't even know where it is. So, you'd have to probably, take to the high seas to find it. And if you give it to me, it's a lot easier. I would definitely watch it through. But yeah, that was Dynamite. I spent a lot of time doing this, the whole friggin' hour and 6 minutes and counting. Apparently, I like to hear myself talk. Producer Boy saying Cole and the Kingdom would be lame. Become the Kingdom is goofy, and that's not the vibe of the beating at the end. Fair, but they might just be playing possum. I think we've obviously seen that Roddy is pretty much okay. We saw it a couple of weeks ago before, Cole eventually came out, and then Roddy pretended to go down and ended up in the hospital. So, this could all, be them, trying to have a misdirect with MJF. So we'll see. Again, I think it opens a lot of questions and in a very brief amount of time, and I'm very, very okay with that. As for Dynamite as a whole, it was a solid episode. I didn't think anything crazy jumped out at me except maybe the MJF Jay White segment, but I mean that's what tends to happen almost every week now. Is the MJF segment jumps out at you, and everything else is good to okay. I didn't think anything was overly bad here, except maybe the Christian Cage Darby thing, just because it kind of went off the rails. But again, maybe that's what they were going for. If they did, I just don't think it hit the mark. Match of the night, as I said before, was a triple threat, in my opinion. If you're going to watch one match tonight, watch that. Those three guys absolutely killed it. I thought they did a really, really good job. As this was the go-home show for Wrestle Dream, excuse me. I don't know. I mean, did this want to get me to buy the pay-per-view? Not by itself. I don't, they don't do AEW, that is, doesn't really do go-home shows the way, say, WWE does. And granted, now also, too, they do have Saturday show at Collision. So I think we see a lot more ramping up on Saturday, but that does kind of suck, because the rosters are fairly split in a way. I think we should see the culmination of some angles on the show, and I guess we did get one with Swerve and Hangman, and we got a few matches leading into the show, like the 4-way match. But I don't. I think we could have got a little bit more to build up for Wrestle Dream. Hopefully, we get that Friday and Saturday. But yeah, I mean, just another solid Dynamite, which unfortunately is what I don't think you want heading into a pay-per-view. But then again, it is coming right off Collision, and we have seen this pattern with AEW where 2 weeks out from the pay-per-view is always better than the week out. So a little bit unintentional this time because it was Grand Slam, but that's their pattern. Anyway, that pretty much wraps things up for me here. So I'd like to thank you, everybody, so much for watching me here at the Mark It Down podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe. I promise you, it's normally not just talking to myself for an hour. That noise threw me the fuck off. Anyway, sorry, that really threw me off. normally, we have Danny, James, Chad, and a whole other cast of characters here on the show. So be sure to like and subscribe, and you can catch the rest of the guys when they hopefully heal up and come back next week. We should be around for Sunday after Wrestle Dream, so definitely subscribe if you want to come see our comments about that pay-per-view on Sunday. Normally, our schedule is we do Dynamite every week here on Wednesdays. James has the Gym Pack Zone on Thursday for those of you who like Gym Pack, and sometimes he sprinkles in some Ring of Honor if anything big happens. Danny's Raw Fast Forwards are on Monday when Raw is good, and hopefully we're starting to get Chad back into the mix here. He has finally come back to us, so be sure to check out his stuff. Hopefully he gets the NXT reviews up and running. Again, I'm going to blow my voice out. So let me wrap this up quick. Be sure to check out all of our social media stuff in the description below. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I highly recommend the Instagram. Danny and James have been throwing out some great memes over there. They go up on Twitter and Facebook as well, but Instagram seems to be the spot where they're blowing up. So check all that stuff out and, talk to us. I'll be on the Twitter on Sunday live tweeting Wrestle Dream. So follow us along on there and you can talk to me on Sunday. That's pretty much it. So for Producer Boy in the background, my name is Nick Cummings. Thank you so much for watching us here at the Market Down Podcast. I'm going to go have a lozenge. Have a good night, everybody. Fine, you click it.